This is Drew Spence talking about Tiffanie Gray's submission. So, about a week ago, I asked Tiffanie Gray to submit a version of the homework that we have in the advanced comic creation class. And I didn't tell her that I was going to be talking about it really during class. I just asked her to do it as an exercise. So, like all artists, she does multiple versions of it and submitted all three. My favorite is the surprise, so we're going to do them in reverse order. So this one is the Frontier version of the story. This is a two-page view of it. So if you missed it, the class gives both elements, like this space station isolated, the backdrop in isolation. Also, it gives you panels that are already rendered fully and affected with a special effect on top. So you get these rendered panels. And then from there, you have to put them together and create a story from the 100 or so images you've been given in the different styles. So this is Tiffanie Gray working through one of the week's homework assignment. And every week it's been different. Sometimes it's about a relationship between the two characters. Sometimes it's about establishing a story, moving plot points along. So this is week 5 that this homework was completed in. So there's a couple of different challenges going on. So she asked me to take a look at it. There obviously isn't much to critique because if I'm giving you the pieces ahead of time, you're really locked into the challenge. So I can't say things like, oh, the story direction you picked or maybe the art choices you made, because a lot of that you're forced to really stretch your imagination and come up with something interesting with these limited set pieces, which is the opposite. You're not writing the story first and then rendering the scenes. You're given the rendered scenes and then forced to create a story that can still be interesting and compelling even with the pieces. So let's look at how she sort of rose to the challenge. And the only reason we're making a video of this is because I started writing a critique. That's what she asked me for. And I got very long-winded, as you know. So I just kept talking and talking forever, and I was writing so many notes. I said I'm writing a book, basically, and I keep referencing the pictures. So instead of just referencing them and trying to remember what I'm saying versus the picture, I thought I would just make a video to go through them real quick. Who knows how long I'm going to let this go for, but you know, when someone's talking about your work, usually you have a little bit of endurance to sit through it. So this is a homework example that we're going to put together. So for this, she starts out with the establishing shot, which is the station itself. Good thing that this comes out in the boldface because this is telling us what we're looking at exactly. We get a little bit of a background. There's a biologist, so we already know from the beginning that this is probably have something to do with organic stuff going on because we've already given the characters a biology background. So we have this device which is in there, and every person who's taken the course has made this a different type of a device. It's been a communicator, it's been a scanner, it's been a weapon, it's been everything so far. So in this particular case, it looks like some sort of reading that can tell her about the virus in her body. All right. Breakfast shot establishing characters eating breakfast. So there were several packages. There's a bedroom. There's 2 different bedroom scenes. There's a kitchen scene. There's 2 different bathroom scenes. So they're sort of choosing these different set pieces and choosing the order of them to make the story. So this is actually somewhat going backwards because the kitchen scene, I think, was from week 2 or 3. So already this is, rethinking the entire package and reorganizing the pieces. But we get a nice establishing shot of the character about to have breakfast. They're sitting down. The conversation begins. We're not going to go through the actual plot of the individual story. It's about a supply ship. You can read it along. The device is here. He finds out that she's infected. What are we going to do about it? We have our first challenge of we have an issue that the character's got to work through. Now we have our character doing a thoughtful thing in this moment of being pensive, and we have the thought revealed of what they're going to do. I'm sorry, this is the only the only cure means something serious is about to happen. We're about to slowly slide into a little bit of the big surprise ending, but okay. Security override, here's the word balloon, which is chosen to be the box. So now we know that the humans are going to speak in the smoother, circular sort of word balloons, and machinery, equipment, notifications are going to come from a square box, and the font is slightly different, which is a good choice because it's legible. So this is one of the few times we're using a different font works, because it's actually something that you can read along and you're not too confused at the font choice. Leaving the station. Emotional close in of the close up. We did cameras in week 5. We did a whole lot of things about camera shots, and we're using a zoom in. I don't think there actually is a panel this tight. So this is, a little bit of a zoom to get the image to cover this much ground. Clever use. Looks out the window, heads out to go find the pod. This device is also in there. I think this is superimposed, that this device had a different screen. So already we're getting some Photoshop or one of those type program to change what's on this, which is clever. This is advanced stuff to take this panel and mix it together. And if you notice, there's even jumping in the two panels together. So this is a separate render that was given. And Tiffanie chose to splice this in almost seamlessly. Splice in a different panel completely to get this point across. So this is like pretty advanced stuff, where we did tell the class to break out of thinking of everything as just panels and begin to just think of it as a resource image. Was a way of thinking, breaking out of the box of just thinking about everything as little boxes of art. Now we see the exploration of that idea here. And the base is exploded. Sacrifice here. Very upset. He heads over to the pod and finds a baby, which really gives him a lot of responsibility and does quite a shift. Where does he go from here with the baby? Right? This was Tiffanie Gray's The Frontier. You saw a lot of things from the class be used in here. Minor. Maybe this goes somewhere more towards the mouth. This probably belongs a little bit over here to point more towards the character. Let me see if that got lost in the second page. If there was a cheat here. No, we didn't have a cheat. Like sometimes, I'm ordering the pages a certain way, and if they've planned on a double page spread, sometimes the image falls a little bit different when you're looking at a bigger spread. But nice work. So this was Tiffanie Gray, The Frontier. My second favorite is The Baby is my second favorite. Let's do 2 pages again. Okay, we have our establishing shot. Ominous planet here. The small exploratory ship and the station. Characters waking up in bed. So as I said, there's the bedroom scene. So this pulls apart the bedroom scene. Now it's a device for some sort of scanning. Oh, it actually speaks this time. So you get the machine. I told you there's a motif here that we're getting the computer or machine language being in the square shaped word balloon. So now this is a device that can actually speak. So this device is doing something of some sort of control. You can read along in the story on your own. You can see the overhead announcement. Maybe this box could have been the more broadcast shape, but that's fine. We still know it's machine talking. The pensive, old school. There it is. Washing up, he sees the device also. He's given this bombshell that she's not pregnant. Comes in, talks about it. Now, this suggests that he has the device in his hand from here. So that's a little bit of cleverness that I will accept that this was in his hand. The drawer, I'm not so sure about, because there is a shot of it being in the drawer. But, I dig that. You could be clever. Talk about the family. This is going to work out. Now this is the original shape of the panel, I should say surface, that you get to see what was on the actual screen. So that was definitely Tiffanie Gray changing this to the warning sign in the last one. So you could kind of see as you look at them what the different artists are doing to really adapt and adjust the panels. Leaves the bay, flies out. Tells him to be careful. There's that shot again, super tightened. Pretty small for a ship. They get close to it. He says, holy smokes. And report, right? They just found a baby. So now we get the punchline is the same punchline again, but the setup is different. So now you've got to wonder, what are they both going to do now that they have a baby? Now that becomes a little bit crazy because you heard in the beginning, I don't want to go through the whole story, but you heard in the whole beginning about the character being infertile. So we get a full circle here with different ramifications. So you can see how you could take the same images but make a completely different story with a completely different angle in it and direction, and makes you curious another way. So that's another good execution of the homework, which is why, like I said, even though the class was given a limited array of images, there was only so many they had, it was enough to really bend them, change the order, edit all the little panels your way, and arrange them into some kind of story where everyone is coming up with something different. My favorite of the three that she did is the surprise. This one is my favorite. I love this one. So already we see some of the graphic things we talked about in the class, because when you're given images that are already rendered, so what you got is outer space fully rendered, right? It was a big shape of space. You had the planet surface already rendered. You had the ship already rendered. All right, instead of always just telling you, let me show you what I'm talking about specifically in case you have no idea what this class was about. It was advanced comic creation. And in the class, I gave elements of art to make things out of. So in, let's say, this is the VIP package. There were 2 tiers. It just has more material and a few bonus sections of stuff. But this is what they got. A lot of it were images that you could use to put together a story, and some of them were in isolation as PNGs with transparency. So you can lay one image on top of the rest, and you could obviously put a background behind this, change what's happening, and you get it in multiple art styles. So you could pick the style that kind of matches the tone that you're going for, and you get these same images in multiple styles. So this is another set of images, and you can see that as you're working in your comic, you take these pieces and arrange them inside the panel, which is a little bit way different than approaching a comic where we're going to just create the narrative, then just make the images match what's being said. We're actually going to construct each individual panel using the raw pieces, which is a lot more freedom, but at the same time, you have to think in a puzzling sort of way. And that's what Tiffanie Gray did an excellent job on here, because I gave you a lot of pieces with no rhyme or reason. And I kind of feel like, for most people, you'll figure it out. So we have some beautiful backdrops for outer space, and some of them have used these for space. Some of them are using them for effects. So again, no matter what you're being given, each artist is going to bring their own version and their own vision to the story and make something interesting and new. So although we've all been given the same pieces, you could just see how far everyone is pushing the art style. So in this case, let me show you this bit of cleverness. This is, what did she use? How did she make this? All right, so this is from an earlier week. So we're going back to like week 2. I think it's week 2. Okay, yeah, this is week 2. So in week's 2 package, let me say further. So just about every week or every other week, you're getting another huge set of images to play with for your stories. And as we've said before, you don't have to put them in any sort of order. You can go backwards and forwards. The kitchen part can come before the bedroom, whatever you want to do as an artist. But we have this shot. Where is it? Is it this shot? All right, so we have some action shots of the character being very angry. Something's going on here, right? So these were some of the fodder they were given. And you have every expression in here, so you can make up your own expressions. Figure out what kind of expressions you want to use. We gave you a lot of choices. A lot of choices you were given. to figure out what you want to do with these personalities. And one of the choices was the character either tossing the table or the table's getting moved or shoved. This is just an interesting shot. I don't know the context. The artist would have to figure that out. And in this one, she somehow, I don't quite know how, but had the table being shoved and moved, and it's done in a way that it's the station shaking, not the character tossing the tables. I still don't know how this was done, but very good. That's all I can say. Very well done. Somehow she removed the character. I can't, now that I've seen this, I learn as a person making panels that maybe I should have included some of these as options too. So I'm learning also. Their creativity is now telling me things I can do in the future for the next set. But now I know that this would have been an option, and you can see the cleverness really makes it as if the station is what's shaking up, not the character throwing the table. And out the gate, that's really pushing the engine and flipping the panels so that the art that you're given is just not what goes into your book. Very, very clever. So with that, let's get back over here. We have, this is a cheat using the background as the explosion. This is very, very clever that this was an effect that was used, right? That was one of those backdrops. Heads out in the ship. Uses the device. This is an interesting choice of shots here. Using the backdrop, which was space, is now some sort of special effect. Again, clever. This was that full shot they probably used to chop up to make the close ones. This could have been one of those type shots, but instead they opened it up a bit more. Right? Combine both the backdrop, the explosion shot. This is it. This is it. And accented it. Wow. A lot going on here. Heads out, as we've seen before. And then you could even see through the art style. I don't know if the original is so stark, but this is really, really pushed the black and white motif here. That styling is so heavy in contrast. Makes it really pop out. And then now we get an advance 1 year later where we do something very risky and completely switch the art style into a color frame, because I'm sure these images are in there in that same schematic that was done with, I think that was done with Akvis Sketch. Akvis, A-K-V-I-S Sketch. I believe that's one of the choices in there as one of the presets, probably with minor editing on my end. But, very risky to also switch art styles. I haven't seen anyone else do this yet. Pick any different art style, because, of course, obviously, this could be used for flashbacks or flash forwards. And you wouldn't have known, this could have been done in color at the beginning and then said 1 year earlier. And all of a sudden you've got all these scenes in black and white. That's a common technique that's used for flashbacks, is to change the color grading. In this case, would have been extreme, but that's it. Tiffany wanted me to talk about this. I'm not sure if I'm going to share this with the class or anyone else. So this is actually for Tiffany because she asked for it. And again, I got a little too long-winded. So that's what I think of them. Obviously, very happy. She is my co-teacher in the class. We're both doing it together. So, I just didn't want to tell her like, oh, yeah, and I'll talk to you during class and explain this stuff to you. Or else it tends to put a lot of pressure on the artist. And people begin to think about what someone's going to say. So you work differently. But if you think you're just working out on your own, you get a certain purity of your expression because you're thinking of just doing it for yourself, and maybe it'll be shared with your classmates, and that you're not going to have to ask and answer questions about it. So sometimes that's nice, that if you're put on the spot, you just get genuine, truthful answers that haven't been put through a filter of being nervous or shy. So in this case, she doesn't know that I'm going to make a video about this. It'll probably be a big surprise because she just thought I would send her a text or something saying, that I like the stuff and I'm going to use it in class. So once again, this is a little bit of a surprise. Tiffany, I thank you for your help with the course, and thank you for being a good sport when I put you on the spot during class to answer off the head questions about your stuff. This is my reaction to actually going through it. And again, the reason I don't want to share this with the class is that I don't want this to influence your decision making. So sometimes I don't want you to see what someone else has done and said, oh, I have to do something like that, or let me copy what they've done. But then sometimes it can be good because you see what's been done already, so you can now push and do something different, or it just alerts you to possibilities, like removing a character from the shot in post, or using a partial scene of the panel. We covered this in class, but sometimes seeing the actual execution of it really goes far. So we'll see what Tiffany says. I'm Drew Spence from the Dynamic Universe and Digital Art Live. This is after week 5 of the Advanced Comic Creation course. Paul Bussey, Digital Art Live. Thank you guys for checking this out. Tiffany, thank you again.